How you guys doing? Where you watching from? Welcome, Michigan. Welcome, New Jersey. How's that audio sound? Does it sound amazing? Welcome, Manchester. Elmi, you're asking to accept you. Hold on, I gotta just say real quickly for those watching the recording, check the timestamps to see when we officially begin. Helmi says, "Can you please accept me in the session? I can't see or hear anything. That's not within my capacity to do. There's no option for me to accept, reject, or deny entry." Welcome, Z. Oh, my whole body is vibrating right now. Good morning, Linda. I remember your beautiful smile. Hope to see you again in Portugal one day. I see your comments. All right. Welcome, Angela. Where are all the dudes at? Okay, we're going to jump into this. Welcome, Shannon from Australia. Welcome, Iga from UK. Okay. What time are we starting here? Welcome. We're going to do it. We're going to jump right into the program. This is Holding Space for Love to Be Seen. I'm your host, Tiger Singleton, and I'm going to hang out here, pretend like I know what I'm talking about, and share some insights and reflections about today's topic. There's a short format that we follow here on the program, and that is to do this introduction, which tells you about the format of the program. And then we are going to relax for 2 minutes. Call it 2 minutes of stillness. It's a time for me to just be here, to relax, to remember that this is where I am. And then if you're going to hang out with me here for an hour, I just invite you to honor that 2 minutes and just collect yourself into this moment. And then after that 2 minutes, I'm going to talk about the topic today, which is allowing yourself to start over. And it's something that I'm relatively going through right now. And so I'm going to share some insight on that. And then if there's any questions from the live audience, they can type those questions in the chat box. Or if there's something else that you want me to speak directly to, sharing my perspective, I can do that. And then we'll wrap up with a super short and sweet guided meditation. So, welcome to the program. Let's go ahead and get started with the 2 minutes of stillness. All right. Thanks for joining me. That 2 minutes of stillness is a reminder for me that I don't need to be anywhere other than right here, right now. And I don't need to be in a hurry. I can just show up and allow this moment to be this moment. And the real power of this moment, of this time together, is that I get to just be here with you. And in that, we get to celebrate the space. And then from that space, maybe we'll discover something. If not, no worries. We can still enjoy this space. The title for this week's episode: Allowing Yourself to Start Over. What interests me about this topic is that I found myself in a bit of a conundrum. And that conundrum was, I was going along in my way of being, working. And I had this shift where the way that I was delivering that wasn't resonating so much. Maybe more accurately, I found my interest moving elsewhere. And as I focused on this new interest, I found a great enthusiasm for it. And something in me really wished that I could start over. Like, oh, this is what I want to do. And I noticed something in that curiosity was immediately there was this sort of restriction, this fear, this, oh no, I can't do that because then I'll lose everything I've done before. Which was interesting because it kind of said that I had to keep doing something that didn't feel like it was in alignment in order to hold on to something that I thought I had. Man, I'm sure that applies to a lot of situations. But yet, as I examined that a little bit more, it all became profoundly clear. And so, in this session, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about this opportunity to start over, to begin something new, and to embrace new adventures. And if you had a chance to read the pre-broadcast reflections for this episode, then it kind of gives a bit of a foundation with what I'm going to be going over. And what I'm going to be going over is 5 steps to starting over that you might find helpful. But there's something that I want to clarify that I think is kind of funny about starting over. And that is, you don't really start over. It's funny too, because we can say we're starting over, but we're not starting over. Because we're building upon experience we've already had. And so in that respect, you're not starting back at square one. Really what you're doing is growing. And you know, a great way to look at this is in relationships. Because as we go through life and we have relationships, we can assume that if one relationship ends and we start a new relationship, then we're starting over. But are you really starting over? No. Or are you just having a new experience with a new depth of understanding about this something called relationship? And also a new depth of understanding about yourself in this something called relationship. And so you're not starting over at all. And what I find incredibly helpful, it creates a great contrast between a deeper clarity and a massive confusion. And that is that there's a point of life falls into. So like in the point of relationship is to find one relationship and then never have that change, never have that end, never have that transform. And so we think the prize is avoiding an experience that we might call loss. And you know what this reminds me of being young, and the advice was you find one job and stick to it. Anybody ever else hear that? Like somehow that's the great prize. And what I find is missing in this strategy, at least when I look at my own experience, I find that fundamentally the point of being alive and being human is a journey of growth. It's a journey of self-discovery. It's a journey of understanding what I am. And naturally, I can't really dive into those things unless I'm willing to dive into new experiences, explore things I haven't explored before, unless I'm willing to let go of things that don't serve or no longer serve. You know what it's also like is this illustration of being stuck in an old skin. And my gosh, this is such a visceral thing for me. And I imagine that you can relate to where there's moments in your life where you feel so out of place in your own skin. Like you're living a life that's not your life, or you're stuck in some sort of dynamic that is dramatically opposed to your own self sincerity. And it's quite an uncomfortable feeling because you feel trapped. You feel trapped in a way of being that's not authentic. And again, this gets expressed in many different ways, like with the example of maybe a job or a relationship or even some sort of pattern of behavior. We find ourselves in these situations where maybe at one time they served, maybe at one time they were helpful, but naturally and understandably, we grow. And so often, as we do, we grow out of those past experiences. It's time to move on. And this is a great indication for me that tells me when it's time to let's say time to question. Maybe not necessarily time to move on because I find that I don't really know that, but what I do know is what's deeply sincere. And the more I get in touch with what's deeply sincere and be honest with myself, then there's a natural transition or transformation that follows. And I think that's a good point because I imagine one of the primary questions is when do I know it's time to start over? And this is fascinating because, oh man, there's so many different directions to go with this. What I find is that my journey in being human, the unfolding of what I do and what I don't do is determined by my degree of self honesty. And so often the confusion is that I needed to decide what to do or what not to do, right? Like, or I needed to make a decision to leave or start over. And that always put me in like a state of paralysis because I didn't really know if it was the right thing to do or not. But however, the more I got sincere about what was going on inside of myself, then the decision just became effortless. It very much like in the way of a job. If I'm working a job and there's a depth of sincerity that sees that this doesn't resonate. If I face that sincerity, like if I just acknowledge the truth of it without arguing with it, without fighting it, but just face it, then there's a natural movement that invites different opportunity. But I guess also what happens too is we're scared to face that. We're scared to be honest with ourselves to that degree because it opens up the potential for stepping into the unknown. I think that's fair to say. But also, I find, for myself at least, there's an excitement in deeply getting honest with myself about these things. Because again, that's been the point of the whole journey. The point of understanding what I am and being more honest with myself. Because naturally, as I'm more honest with myself, then I can provide for myself what is most in alignment with my being. So, most importantly, as we dive into these 5 steps, I think it's really important to understand that you're not really starting over, that you're just growing. And if we can frame it in that way, then I think that what we'll find is that this opportunity to start over is just a playful expression of our own growth. And also, we can recognize that this is what we've been doing our whole life, is it not? In some way or another, stepping back, reevaluating, and then engaging something new that's more in alignment with what's sincere. You know, it's also fascinating is also in relationship. You can start over in a relationship without changing relationship. That's actually something that I really like. Like, imagine the conversation where it's like, can we just start over? Right? There's lots of confusions, there's lots of misunderstandings. Can we just start over for a second? And I think that that speaks to a similar opportunity. But okay, I'm going to run through these 5 steps. And again, understand I'm just making all this stuff up, looking at my own experience, so it may or may not be helpful for you. But that's the play in this time together, is that I just get to share my reflections with you, and they might resonate and they might not, and that's fine. Okay, 5 steps. Step number 1. Actually, I'll just tell you the 5 steps and then we'll go over them. Step 1 is acknowledge and own the suffering. Step 2 is wake up to the journey of growth. Step 3 is release seriousness and embrace sincerity. Step 4 is see and breathe into the opportunity. And step 5, my favorite, release the others, the world, and myself. Okay, step number 1, as it relates to allowing yourself to start over. And I guess I've been already talking about this. Acknowledge and own the suffering. And let's go slow with this and take our time. Because maybe you're in that situation now where you feel a call in some way to start over. Acknowledge and own the suffering. What does that mean? You know what's going to carry you through the difficulty and into the possibility contained within the unknown? It's going to be pain. Pain is always at the foundation of any transformation. It's what invites us to transform. Because what we recognize is that the pain we're experiencing is the result of, let's just say, a lack of transformation. And so the more honest I can be about the pain and suffering that's created through my lack of participation, then I can see that the transformation is the only option. And my goodness, this is powerful. So often in our experiences of suffering, we want to believe that it's the result of life and other people. This is blame. And it's interesting too, because the concept of blame in one way helps us feel safe. The concept of blame says, I'm hurting because of something out there. And thus I don't need to do anything about it. I don't need to change. It's the other person that has to change. It's life that has to change. But the more that I see that my experience of suffering is self-inflicted, the only option as a way out of that suffering is for there to be a transformation. And this is fascinating too, because I do mean it's the only option. And there's so many little transformations I've seen throughout my life, I guess little and big. Whether it was being a drug addict or being in stupid jobs, being in relationships that clearly were not a good fit. I was always forced to see that this is my own doing. That I am willingly staying in a situation that I know doesn't resonate, but I'm staying because I'm afraid of the unknown. Anybody relate to that? I'm scared of the unknown. I want to transform. I want to experience something that's more in alignment with my heart. But in order to do that, I have to let go of this fantasy of security and discover new aspects, capabilities, and skills that lay dormant within what I am. It's a pretty big risk. Now, the more in touch you are with the suffering, seeing that I'm suffering because I'm denying myself, I'm suffering because I am not giving my heart what it craves, and I'm trying to get it from somebody else or something else. And what's also curious too is so often I can't actually give it to myself until I let go of the thing that I'm trying to get it from. And we're using words here, and this is a little bit difficult to describe, but as an illustration, as someone who was a homeless drug addict, as much as I wanted to improve, I couldn't also remain to be a drug addict. Right? It's like, that's great, right? That would have been really safe. It's like, yes, I had a desire to have more authority over my experience, but I couldn't have that and remain to be a drug addict. Also, and I hear this a lot when I talk to people, like from a relationship standpoint. It's kind of funny how much I hear this, but people will be in a relationship that doesn't resonate and they want to be open to a relationship that resonates, but they stay in their current relationship until they find someone new. And then once they find someone new, then they'll leave the relationship. But as you can see, that doesn't create much space for something new. That's maybe something to consider in your own unique experience. I'm not saying that applies to everyone, but just as a general pointer. And what I'm pointing to is that you cannot escape the element of embracing the unknown, right? Because that's also the thing that we're afraid of. And so we're trying to improve our lives without taking risk, without letting go. And the beauty of letting go is you're letting go of something that doesn't serve, which makes space for something that does serve. And again, the thing that's going to fuel your courage to make that step is getting in touch with the pain and suffering. I hear what you're saying, Laura. Yeah, I was thinking about that. It's also said that it's easier to find a new job when you have a job. And that certainly applies for some people. Yet my personality doesn't work that way. My personality is to put myself in a difficult situation to where I have to succeed. And so my approach was to at least put in my notice at a job, and then that puts me in a situation where it's like, I just got to go. I got to make it happen. I don't know how it would work with putting in a notice for a relationship, though. That would be kind of odd. Okay. Number 2, wake up to the journey of growth. This points back a little bit to what I was saying with regard to realizing what this is all about. And it's always fascinating because, and again, it's something you have to see for yourself, but what is this whole thing about? What is this human thing? What's the point? And what I see in my own direct experience is that I have been on a journey of seeing myself more clearly. And part of that seeing myself more clearly results in an understanding that I don't need to hold on to anything. The more clearly I see myself, the more I see that I'm whole and complete. Do you know what happens the more you see that? The more you see that you're whole and complete? It's so much easier to let go of things. It's so much easier to trust the unknown. It's so much easier to take playful risks. It's so much easier to enjoy life. And in that space, seeing that I'm already whole and complete, then I'm engaging experiences for the sake of discovery, for the sake of learning, for the sake of sharing, which is like a celebration of life. And this is just such a vast contrast to thinking life as it's about not experiencing what I'm afraid of. And that is not a smart way to go about it, because then you just become afraid of being afraid. And in many ways, it was the complete opposite. This was about being honest with myself about what I'm afraid of, looking at what I'm afraid of, and discovering that there's actually nothing to be afraid of, which is also like connecting with the permission to enjoy myself. So you're invited to wake up to that. Wake up to the reality that this is all about growing. And inevitably, part of growing is perceivably starting over. But you're not really starting over. And it's so fascinating because all of the progress that I've made in my life has come through some flavor of starting over. Some flavor of letting go of some sense of security, stepping into the unknown, and discovering something new. And that's not ending anytime soon. It's going to keep being that. Number 3, release seriousness and embrace sincerity. This is a fun one. I just wrote about this today as well. This is one of the I wrote today my 3 biggest insights that have made the biggest impact on my life. And number 2 was realizing that life isn't serious, that it's playful. And if playful is too much of a stretch given your current circumstance, then it's deeply sincere instead of playful. But can we just acknowledge for a moment that the seriousness that we experience is a seriousness that we imagine to exist? Like outside of our own belief in something serious, seriousness doesn't exist. We make things serious. Just like you can look at nature and you can say it's serious, but that's just a way of seeing it. You can look at the potential of losing your job and you can say it's serious, but that's just a way to see it. In the same regard, it can be seen as playful. It can be seen as an opportunity. And the analogy that I use all the time is that of playing a game. Like if I'm playing Candy Crush on my phone and I think the points mean something about me, then I don't enjoy playing the game. right? There's more tension, there's more anxiety. It becomes serious because I think the points are real. And again, that's just a particular way of perceiving it. And just like in life, we have these illusion of points and we think they mean something. They don't at all. The point of the game is for me to enjoy the game. The point of the game, if played with others, is the opportunity to connect with other human beings and to grow and develop in a particular area of interest. That's not serious at all. It's an opportunity. And so, what a beautiful shift as it relates to allowing yourself to start over. Can we realize that this isn't serious? Or at least see that if it's serious, it's only serious because I'm perceiving it as serious. What other ways might I perceive this? Or what do I think is serious about it that's not really serious? Laura, if you have trouble finding that, just send me a message. Embrace sincerity is the other part of number 3. And there's such a beautiful difference between serious and sincere. Seriousness believes that there are points in the future that could be lost. You'll notice this if you look. Any seriousness requires the fear of losing something in the future. And it's a whole nother talk about the illusion of loss, but just notice that seriousness doesn't have anything to do with the reality of the present moment. It's about protecting something in the future. Sincerity is about the depth of what's real and true right now. Sincerity is all about the present moment. And so rather than seeing your life as serious, there's the opportunity to see that your life is deeply sincere. Like you have a real opportunity to connect with something profound. You have a real opportunity of discovery. You have a real opportunity of living an adventure. And it's such a gift to just be alive. Now, for me, that's deeply sincere. Tomorrow, who knows? Let's find out. Number 4, see and breathe into the opportunity. What does this mean? Well, as it relates to starting over, and I'm such a big fan of utilizing the tool of imagination consciously. Because if you don't use it consciously, then the mind imagines according to conditioning. And that's not always helpful. But what I mean by this, see and breathe into the opportunity, is to take a moment to be still and see the heart of the matter. And then also see the opportunity that you have. The heart of the matter being that this is an opportunity for me to honor the truth of what I am. This is an opportunity for me to give myself back to myself. This is an opportunity for me to let go of something that doesn't serve, which presents the additional opportunity to connect with or create something that does resonate and does serve. And for me, it's just beautiful to take a moment and be still and to reflect on that. And then allow yourself to imagine what's possible. Like, in what ways would I really like to serve? Right? Like, if I'm going to spend my time here on earth serving in the way that I'm currently serving simply doesn't resonate at all, then what are the ways I would like to serve? Again, it's not creating an expectation of what should or should not be. It's just opening up to the possibility. And there's something magical that happens when you do that. When you just allow yourself to breathe into it, feel it, see that it is possible. Yeah, it's probably going to be a challenge, which is why it's worthwhile. Yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit scary. That's because it's an adventure. But what a great gift to give myself. And I'm going to learn a whole bunch in the process. Number 5, release the others, the world, and myself. I'm a huge fan of releasing the world and releasing other people. And when I can, releasing myself. What do I mean by that? There's this funny thing that we do as human beings where we demand that the world and other people not be what they are so that we can be at peace. This also points to the ways in which we blame the world and other people. Right? Because if you're feeling discontent, if you're feeling like your life doesn't resonate, I'm sure somewhere in there are narratives of blame that say it's the world's fault, that say it's other people's fault. If only the world was different. If only this didn't happen. Yada, yada, yada. Right? So I'm a prisoner to the world. I'm a prisoner to other people. And most directly, it's just not true. Those are the ways that I hide. Those are the ways that I hide from taking responsibility over my own transformation. And so, in order for me to really be free, I have to release my prisoners. I have to let the world be the world. I have to let other people be other people. And again, it's not let the world be my idea of the world, the way that I judge it, and same with people. But it's just to let go of them and just let the world be the world. Let people be people. And then I can focus on being what I am. And what I also recognize in doing that, in letting go, is I see that I'm fine. I see that I don't need the world to change. I don't need other people to change. And that gives me not only myself back to myself, but it gives me my energy back. Because how much energy is expended on thinking about what other people should or should not be doing? My goodness. Right? This even happens in relationship. If you're in a relationship with someone, how much energy is spent on how you wish the other person would be, as if they changed, then you could finally be free. Then you could finally be happy. Do you see how you're now a prisoner to that person? That's not fun. And then to release myself. To release myself is really to start over. And this is beautiful too, because we collect so many silly stories about who we think we are, about these stories we have, and it's all nonsense. It's all just mind noise that you use to limit yourself in this moment. It's like, what if you could just start over? How is that anything different from just dropping all the stories? To be what you are without all the stories is to be brand new and to just start over. And it's beautiful too, because you're not really starting over. You've already had a bunch of experience. There's already been growth. And so as you start over, you're starting over as something that's a little bit more evolved. And you don't even have to put much thought into it because it's already happened. And as you start over, you get to see how that growth has made an impact, right? You start over where you start over, and then you grow on top of that. And I feel it's totally possible that for us as human beings, we grant ourselves the permission to just start over and let people think what they think, right? Because people will see you as they see you. And maybe that includes all those stories. Let them think what they think, but you start over. You see how that includes releasing others? And so badly, we want other people to see us a new way. That's silly. This is for you, right? This is a gift that you're giving to yourself. This isn't about how other people see you. This is about recognizing this human journey is between you and you, between you and life. And in the most fascinating way, the more you embrace that, the more pleasant you are to be around, which in some regard makes you a magnet for pleasant people. And then, furthermore, the more you recognize that, the more difficult you're to be around if you're around people who don't recognize that. It's almost like people who blame like to be around other people who blame. And people who blame do not like being around people who don't blame. And so you can stop trying to manipulate who you're going to be around and just be you. And then the magnetic effect of energy will take care of the rest. You just be the best version of yourself that you can be. And then life brings you the perfect reflection for you to continue your growth opportunity. All right, that was the 5 steps. Maybe if you want this in writing, you can send me a message and we'll try and get it to you. No promises though. Okay. Any questions in the comment section? Let's find out here. I totally wasn't paying attention during my talk at the questions that came in. Here's a question. Do you see preparation for a case in the Supreme Court as a game? I do, without the demand that other people should, which is funny too, because if I demanded that other people should see that, do you see how that's kind of serious? People are free to see it however they see it because it's not serious. And you say it's a serious question, but maybe it's a sincere question. Yeah, I mean, because again, that speaks to so many different examples of, do you see XYZ as serious or as a game? This speaks to a very broad understanding about the way that I see life. Let me put it this way. If you think that death is something real, then the experience of people dying will be a serious thing. But if you see that death is a concept and it's not real, then what we see as death is not a serious thing. And so to have a degree of serious, and again, reverting back to the example of a game, to be serious in playing the game, you think the points are real, which means you think the points mean something about you. And so we're afraid of losing those points. And we do the same thing in life, where we enter these games that perceivably have points in some manner, and we think those points are real. And I guess, most commonly we do this with money, right? We think if we have a lot of money, it means something about you. And we think if we lose money, that means something about you. And so we think the loss and gain of money is serious, which again makes the play of money not very much fun. But likewise, like if you're playing a game and there's pretend money involved, there's an opportunity to enjoy that game and to have fun with that game and even try and get more money in the game, but it doesn't mean anything about you. So it's not a big deal, but it's fun if that's the game that you enjoy playing. And even for some, they don't enjoy playing the game because they have lots of judgments about something that might call money or judgments about any particular flavor of points, which is also fascinating to look at because maybe deep down you want to play the game, but you have judgments which makes you afraid of the game. And in your fear of the game, you say you don't want to play the game, but actually you wish you could play the game. That was definitely my experience. I used to have a lot of judgments about money and other people who had money, but secretly I wished that I could play the game. And then the less serious I took the game, realizing that I'm already whole and complete, then it became more fun. And so maybe as it relates to this example of Supreme Court case, and again, as I've mentioned, everything that we're encountering is an opportunity for our own growth. It's a spiritual exercise. It's presenting itself for us to see what we see so that we can see what we see. And also, when I look in that direction, I see that it's never how I see it. I'm always turning it into something. And so, can I discern the difference? Can I discern what I'm turning this into and what it really is? And the more I see what it really is, the more I see that it's not serious at all. I see that I'm making it serious because I'm scared. Scared of what? Losing points. Thanks for that question. I'm glad you think this is gold. What about if you have a physical disease? Well, again, what is that? Do you see that just the word disease is open to interpretation? Some people think disease means that God hates them. And so that gives you a completely different experience. Some people, let's say for me, what does disease mean? It means something's out of alignment within my biology. Okay. That presents an opportunity to introduce more alignment, which also is an opportunity to take care of myself. It's an opportunity to investigate how I might be contributing to the experience of being out of alignment. And that's for me, right? It's like, oh, this disease is manifesting because it's asking me to see something. It's not against me. And you see how that's kind of playful in nature? You can see it as against you, or you can see it as for you. And so it's never the thing, right? It's not the circumstance. It's not the label of disease that's the issue. It's how do you see it? And granted, if I see it as something that's for me, I'm going to approach it in a way that contributes more to the outcome than opposed to if I see it as against me, which I see myself as a victim, which sees myself as disadvantaged, which sees myself as cursed, right? There's all these different ways to see it. And again, everyone is free to see it how they see it. So in the way that I see it, there's nothing in me that thinks other people should see it that way. You're just free. But most people, when they see things, they think that that's what it is, rather than that's just a way to see it. Now, here's the thing also. The more you see what things really are beyond what you turn them into, you will get closer to a perception that is beneficial for your journey. Because this is also just the fundamental design in life, is that everything that's happening, and this is fascinating because I was just watching a nature documentary, where it's talking about all these little things that do this, and then these things do this. The dolphins take a shit in the ocean, and then it supports this form of life, and then that form of life supports it. It's like it all just goes together. So everything that's happening is supporting everything that's happening. And there's nothing that happens that doesn't serve. That doesn't serve, let's call it the awakening of life. It's beautiful. And the more you touch on the essence of that, then your perception of things, the way you see things, reflects that. And then life naturally becomes more fun, more beautiful, more playful, more sincere. Which is why I often say that, all suffering is an innocent misunderstanding of experience. We are interpreting things in a way that is not in alignment with life. Yeah, James, I hear you. I hear you. James says, it occurs to me that we are spiraling constantly through cycles of learn, grow, play in different areas of life, like the trajectory of planets orbiting a moving star. Exactly. It's just a cycle, right? Just like birth and death cycle. And in between birth and death, you have lots of births and lots of deaths, right? Lots of moments of starting over. Each breath is a birth and a death. In and out, it's gone. In and out, it's gone. It starts over. And it's the same for our human experience as we grow. In and out, it's gone. Next lesson. In and out, it's gone. Next lesson. And this is a spiral inward that is unending. It's infinite. Okay. Can I repeat the 5 steps? Yes. Number 1, acknowledge and own the suffering. Step 2, wake up to the journey of growth. Step 3, release seriousness and embrace sincerity. Step 4, see and breathe ... into the opportunity. Step number 5, release the others, the world, and myself. Okay. All right. We're going to do the meditation. I'm over time. It's 1:11 here in Portugal. Let's do a super quick meditation. How about that? Playfully. Let's see if we can do a 3-minute meditation. What should we call it? You got any ideas? Something that relates to this session today? Release. Okay. Let's do the release guided meditation. Let's go. Welcome to this moment. We're going to do a super quick meditation that invites you in a very simple way to just release. Release what, you might ask? It doesn't matter. Just release. We're going to ground ourselves into the present moment by taking 3 deep breaths. And as we inhale, we're going to acknowledge that we are here right now. And then as we exhale, we're going to release anything and everything that is not here in this moment. Let's take 3 deep breaths. Let's breathe. Let us just recognize that any and everything that might be bothering you, it's not actually here right now. It's not reality that bothers you. It's the mind's content. It's the imaginary monsters. We don't need to spend a bunch of time trying to figure them out. We can just come home. We're going to do that breathing exercise one more time. On the in breath, we're just remembering this moment. We're remembering that life is here right now, and allow ourselves to connect with what is real. And on the out breath, we're simply releasing whatever you want to release, acknowledging that it's not here. So let's take 3 more deep breaths. Let's breathe. Beautiful. Okay. Sure, it might try and come back and haunt you. That's fine. But maybe we can just remember that it's not actually here in life. And so we can just come home. Let the mind do what the mind does. But remember where you really are. You're here right now. And there's nothing in the mind that can actually touch you. Thank you for meditating with me today. All right. Thanks for that, Z. And I am scheduled to be back next week. I'm contemplating an end to the Holding Space for Love to Be Seen podcast. Just contemplating it. I don't know if there's going to be space for it with the new thing that I'm doing. Oh, and I did mention that in the beginning. But the new thing that I'm doing, I'm still sharing insight and wisdom, but I'm also going to focus a whole lot more on helping people thrive in their business lives. First, working with solopreneurs, people who have genuine value that they'd like to share with the world and want to gain clarity, get focused, and become profitable. And so I'm wondering if I'll have space for this podcast. But if I don't, it's because I'm doing other podcasts. So I'll still be sharing a bunch. All right, you guys. Thank you for the donation, Jen. And let me know if you have any more questions. Send me a message, Nicole, and I can share with you what I'm doing to help folks like you. All right. I'm out. Aloha. And cheers to the beauty that you already are. Bye.